This is the Listen Up Future Nurse podcast, and you're listening to episode 10, season 1 recap of Listen Up Future Nurse podcast. I am your host, Fallon M. Flowers, the Black pre-nursing coach and CEO and founder of Nursing Inspired LLC. Today is September 11th, also known as 9/11. Um, this is a day that many of us, may remember, and for those of us who don't know, we'll make sure that future generations will never forget. So I wanted to start off today's episode with making sure to offer a moment of silence for all the lives that were lost, for all those who lost someone, for any survivors, and anybody that was affected by the tragic events of this day, from many years ago. And so now, as we transition from today being a day of remembrance, in one way, I'd like to introduce this episode and travel back down memory lane. And so, um, after being thought of for many years ago, actually, this podcast was not born until this year. And so the Listen Up Future Nurse podcast was launched during Nurses Week 2024 and started off on just a few platforms, mainly Spreaker, the Nursing Inspired website, and now has grown to be on iHeartRadio, on Spotify, on Audible, Amazon Alexa devices, Amazon Music, and now Apple Music. Thank goodness for all the iPhone users out there. Y'all made it hard for Team Android and Team Windows, but I finally made it there too. So I'm glad to welcome you all to the Listen Up Future Nurse community. And then for all those that are in the viewing community, we've been on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and YouTube, which you can catch replays in their entirety on all of those except for Instagram to watch. And so for those of you that are new here, what's so exciting and why I wanted to do this season 1 recap is really to just round out because some podcasts don't make it to 10 episodes. And here we are, y'all, 10 episodes in. I am so very excited, so grateful. But not only that, but we've also reached over 100 downloads of the podcast so far. And then throughout the entirety of the podcast being live, we have reached over 20 states in the United States and have even reached internationally in Portugal, which is actually pretty cool and different too, right? And so with all of that, I'm so grateful to be here to be able to inspire the next generation, inform the next generation, not only with my own knowledge and experience, but from others that are in the field or pursuing in the field or helping those to get in the field in many different ways. And so today, I'm going to be sharing different clips from each of the episodes, just for those of you who maybe didn't get a chance to listen to the previous 9 or 10, and just be able to listen in, so then you'll know what to listen back to, earmark it, bookmark it later, download it, all the things. And then I want you all to also be able to kind of hear from and see those that you maybe connect from that are a type of nurse or nurse practitioner or something that you'd like to be. Maybe they live in your state, things like that, or just their story just resonated with you. But either way, I want you listeners and viewers to be able to hear all of the beauty that has brought us this far, to get us to this 10th episode and technically 11th, because bonus episode, episode 0, was about me, Nurse Fallon. So that one talked all about me, my journey, my story, and all the things just related to how we got to this point too. And so I want to make sure that you still can hear the introductory video for this episode. So we're going to go to that, and then I'm going to start introducing the upcoming episodes.
You're listening to an episode of Listen Up Future Nurse Podcast. Scan the QR code if you're watching, or click the link in the podcast show notes to get your virtual remote. Make sure to tune in and subscribe on Spreaker and follow us on all your favorite podcast locations. And watch us live online on all of your favorite social media sites.
No login, no problem. No matter if social media isn't your thing or you're taking a break, you can listen in right on our website. Save your data and this episode by downloading it from our website, nursinginspired.com/podcast. So if you have to take a pause, you don't lose your place where you were listening or your battery power. That'll also help our podcast rankings rise to the top.
This podcast is hosted by Fallon M. Flowers.
All right. So I want to introduce our first episode back again. So again, for those of you who are new listening in, if you want to learn more, you can go back to the bonus episode, episode 0, and listen in on that or watch. But our very first guest was nurse Courtney Singleton. She's actually a recent graduate from nursing school as of this past December. And she is a single mother of 3, a non-traditional student, and she hails from the south suburbs of Chicago in Flossmoor, Illinois. So let's go ahead and take a listen in on her episode.
I applied to 2 nursing schools, only 2. And the first one I applied to was in, I want to say it was in Peoria, and it was attached to a hospital. Didn't really want to go there, but I applied anyway just because I wanted to have the option. And I also applied at Lakeview. And the reason why I looked at Lakeview was because they had the 16-month BSN program. I knew I didn't want to go to school and obtain anything but my bachelor's. Like, I wanted to go for my bachelor's. I didn't want to have a second associate's degree because I had attained one already. So I went on ahead and went to Lakeview. I got that letter of acceptance before I ever even heard from the other school. And honestly, I don't think I ever heard from them. Honestly, I didn't. It was really close to around COVID, so I'm not sure what happened.
Oh my God.
But I was accepted into Lakeview to their BSN program, and I wanted to do the 16-month program. But after the first semester, bills and car note, and I'm like, I have to work. But I also wanted to be a great student at the same time. So I decided not to do the 16-month program. And the very next month is when I was offered a scholarship through the nursing corps, which paid for everything. So if I just would have stuck with it, believed in God and said, he got this, but I didn't. I backed out. So, it did turn into the 2-year program, but that's still fine. And it was just a blessing. Like, it just kind of all happened. I was amazed at just, the short amount of time that it actually took once I really applied myself. It wasn't, it wasn't too crazy. The classes were not hard or anything like that. It was just applying yourself. Like, that was the main thing. And, I also knew that I had to become involved in different things as a Black student in my school because there were not many Black students at my school. So I felt it was important for me to become involved so I can be that voice for other students.
Wow. That was so good. Okay. I got to recap back over all of this. So at the time, in your 30s, starting off in the process, already a mom during this time too. And anatomy was your one that kind of tried to take you out, but it didn't. Okay. Yeah, statistics was the one for me, and I think I was in my mid 20s. I think starting the process, late 20s. Okay, so both non-traditional student, to say the
Mhm.
least, non-traditional student, and already had an associate's and
Yeah,
didn't want another one.
right.
And I understand that because I got two myself, get too many degrees. Um, and so the 16-month program that was accelerated for you then, right? Was
Yeah,
that was their accelerated program?
yeah.
Okay. And those are tough. There are some out there that, well, I'll say back at the time when I was looking to start do an accelerated program, there was a 12.5-month program.
Oh my God.
Loyola University, Chicago. I think they have changed that now, but
Mhm.
still, 16 months is still like you don't get any breaks. I don't know if anybody has ever looked at that curriculum and that academic calendar, but
Mhm.
no breaks. You get
No,
2 days a weekend. I don't even
yeah,
think you get a week.
no, you
Um,
don't.
yeah.
And as a parent, it's really hard. I think it's more suited for students who are fresh out of, that first year of college during their prereqs. They have no children. They live at home with mom or dad. They
Yeah.
don't have bills like that. It's more set up for that student, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think so too. I mean, there are some folks who, will make it happen, have made it happen, but ideally, I think you say probably, and I'd say too, if you can do that while you still got the support of mom and dad, and you living at home, and you don't have to worry about bills, then great. But you were blessed,
Yeah,
hallelujah. Yes, with
yeah,
getting that nurse score. Was it? Did you get the nurse score or the
yeah.
HRSA?
It's HRSA, but it's nurse core. Like they're
Okay, so
all
you got the
like
nurse score.
intertwined. Yeah.
Ooh wee.
And
Ooh,
it was awesome. Like I
yes.
applied for it that first semester and it's with the state. So it took a while.
Mm,
And like I said, when I found out, I had already decided that I wasn't going to go ahead and continue with the 16 months and go on with the 2 year.
mm-hmm.
But, with that, tuition, books, um, and a stipend every month. And the stipend was $1,600 a month.
Just gonna ask that for the
Mhm.
people. Right. Yes, y'all.
Yeah.
So this is to show that although you took a step back, that step back actually really propelled you forward because you took that little bit of time off,
Mhm.
applied to that scholarship, and then now you wound up having your entire program paid for,
Yeah.
plus you had a living stipend, a little something something to work with to help pay some bills at home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing because I think that's one of the biggest challenges for students right now is they don't have a full financial plan laid out. For not only for their tuition but also for their bills and things at home. And then it's just like they're so excited they got that acceptance letter, they're ready to get started, but everything else is not fully set up there. I know for myself, I was graced with the WIOA program, which is now called WIOA actually, but it used to be called WIA. And they actually paid for my program at the city colleges for the 2 years that I was there and everything. And so, but I still was working though, I still was working as a pharmacy technician. But now, were you still working during this time with you also having this grant, or did you just go ahead and let that go?
I did not. I was working as like a tech for like a convenient care. And
Okay.
I realized that it was more important for me to be able to study as much as possible, and working just did not fit that. And I think it's interesting that you just mentioned the WIOA program because I had
Mhm.
that too. That was
You
also
just did it.
something that I had. So my travel to school was about 30 to 45 minutes each way.
Okay. Hmm.
So they would pay for travel and
Nice.
daycare.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I
You
really
have
had
come up
no.
now.
Yeah, yeah, it was awesome.
So since the Nurse Corps grant already paid for everything already, then WIOA did not offer for that, but they covered the other stuff you're saying with the daycare and the travel.
Yep, they did.
Oh,
Fully,
that's
100%.
absolutely amazing. Boy, they have really changed some things over the years. Wow, that is
Mhm.
That's more than awesome. Congratulations to you on that, just the whole journey and everything. All right, so that was episode one. Again, that was with Nurse Courtney Singleton, and that was episode one, Student Nurses Day specifically. All right, so the next episode I want to share with everyone is episode two, College Bound Resilience Building Life Advantages. The guest for that episode was Carol Ben-Davies. She is the founder of College Bound Determination. She is an excellent college expert for many, many years. She's also a co-author of a book. She's a mom. And so she really gives great insights on what it looks like to be ready for college, because it's not just about being ready for nursing school. You also have to be really ready for college as well. So I'm looking forward to sharing her episode. And so here she is.
And that was the biggest aha for me, is that there's this narrative of the at-risk student. Again, the student who's first generation, who's from a rural community, who's low socioeconomic status, that who are underrepresented, that those students will come to campuses. And I will be, I primarily worked at predominantly white institutions. And so those students coming into that environment were often seen as being at risk of not thriving, not succeeding at a higher rate because of those factors. And what I saw and what I feel is that it's not because of those factors. Other factors contribute to it. So it's a contributing factor, but it's not the determining factor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It contributes to it, but it doesn't determine it. I mean, there were students who came from very small, rural, first generation. They were knocking it out the box. I remember there were two young ladies who came. They got Dean's List first semester in nursing. And that was not easy to thrive in that capacity. And I actually checked in on them when I knew they were graduating, because I met with them their freshman year, but I didn't stay until their senior year. But I knew they were graduating, so I said, "Hey, ladies, how's it going? When I last saw you, you both made Dean's List, and I didn't want to say, like, did you continue that the whole time?" Gather, and they did. They made Dean's List or honors, or one of those, were very involved the whole time. Now, they may or may not have been the type of student who one would expect to have had that kind of experience, right? And so you can't just assume that because you are from this particular area, you're not going to do well, or vice versa, which I thought was also sad and unfortunate, because you've had all these opportunities, because you've had all these experiences, because your parents have all gone through college, achieved at very high success levels, that you're going to have smooth sailing. You're going to be smooth. You're going to be good. Everything's going to be awesome. And so what does it tell that kid who was supposed to do well, who was supposed to have their life all together, that they don't? They're just as lost. They're just as confused. They don't know how to navigate. We go to college, but who's talking about Bursar's office, and who's talking about, all these aspects of college life at the dinner table? We talk about college. It's like, yeah, we'll talk about a football game, we'll talk about a basketball game, but college life, like, not really. So everyone, I think, is, starting off in the same playing field. In my opinion, I'm first generation, so I'm just speaking for myself, that the things that I thought that were a disadvantage to me coming into my college, coming from a very, very small high school. My graduating class, I think, had 60 students, 99% free and reduced lunch, going off to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, thinking, okay, maybe my first semester I didn't do well. Maybe it's because I'm not supposed to be here. And carrying this shame because I didn't do well the first semester. But I graduated in 4 years, and I didn't take that pride with me. I carried this sense of shame because of all the narrative of, well, maybe you shouldn't have gotten that opportunity, maybe you shouldn't have been accepted, and all of that nonsense. Then being able to work with students who came from schools who most people, if you're familiar with high caliber high schools, if I said a name of a high school, you might be like, oh yeah, I recognize that name. And then to understand that not all 100% of those kids go off to college and thrive, and some of them even are academically dismissed. So when I saw how many of those students were not also struggling, who were also having a hard time navigating in the same way that I did, I was like, oh wait, college is just hard for everybody. With and I don't want to diminish it, like it doesn't have anything to do, right? It absolutely does. There's a lot of research, there's stereotype threat, there's so much that impacts how we show up to a campus, how we think about ourselves, how we think about how we can succeed, how imposter syndrome impacts many of us, whether it's women in STEM fields, whether it's whatever. There's all these aspects to life that can knock you back. So I don't want to say that none of those things matter, and you're just. But from my experience, there's so much more to success, right? Than what is, if you have this as high SAT score, you have this high GPA, you came in with all these accolades, you're going to come on campus and thrive. And I hear that so often still, with so many universities moving back to requiring the SAT and test scores, saying that is a predictor of success. And I don't want to. There's there's more to it than that. There's more to it than that. You cannot determine someone's their sense of self is not. There's no test for that. There's no test for the confidence that some students come in with, the positive growth mindset that many students come into college with, the grit and determination. Like you can't see that from a test. You can't see that from a GPA. And so those things are not measured. And so you can't tell me that because you have this score, you're going to do better than another student. And I thought too, that how unfortunate was it that a student was admitted because they had these high scores, because they had this GPA, but the student was denied because they didn't. And could that student who didn't get accepted or admitted, could they have been just have done as well, or at least
or better,
have the opportunity to even try because they didn't have that score? So it's a lot in my head. I think about this quite a bit, and sometimes I'm like from my gut and my heart, but it's just why I started the business and why I like to talk about this in this way, because we don't think about it and hear about it in this context. I'm seeing families very excited. It's like I feel I lived through Groundhog Day with this whole college cycle, because we have students who are now graduating from high school, class of 2024, right? They're going to be coming into college in the fall. We have college sophomores who just were in their place last year, who had great expectations of where they would be. Some of them were so excited about selecting that institution that they went to. And some of them are like, no, this is not the place for me. I'm going to leave. I don't like it. I don't like it as much. Some of them may be thriving academically, but they hate it socially. Some of them may have thrived a little bit too much socially. And then, academically, things weren't well, right? Some families decided, oh, my baby wants to go to this school. I know it's going to be, expensive. I know we're going to have to sacrifice a lot. We're still going to send them there. And then they realize when reality hits, we can't afford this. So then they have to pull their child out of school after they've made friends, after they've gotten acclimated to the campus, and then they have to leave and go somewhere else because they haven't, the family really could not afford to send them there. But on this emotion of, well, you know, I got accepted and I want to be here. This is my dream school, yada, yada, yada. The dream has to match the reality. So if the reality is that you can't afford it, or if it's too expensive, it's just not a wise decision.
All right, so that was Carol Ben-Davies, again, founder of College Bound Determination. That was episode number 2, College Bound Resilience, Building Life Advantages. And so definitely glean something from that. All right, so the next episode I want to share with you all, just a sniff, is episode 3, and that's Empowering Change, Building a Network of Black Male Nurse Leaders. And so that episode features Dr. Michael L. Jones, aka Dr. Mike. He is a native of Leake County, Mississippi, excuse me. He's an associate professor in Greenville, North Carolina. He's also an adjunct faculty at Jackson State University and HBCU in Central Mississippi. He's also a researcher. He's a dad. And he is also a proud member of the Eta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And so let's take a listen to Dr. Mike.
Nurse at the young age of 23. And what inspired me to actually pursue nursing as a career were two things. Number one, my grandmother always wanted me to become a doctor. So I was just a little nerdy kid, little skinny kid running around countryside of Mississippi. And actually my grandmother saw something in me that I did not realize within myself. And she wanted a doctor. But because I was such an introverted, shy kid, going away to a four-year university was not an option for me. And also, we were very poor in a little small county called Leake County, which is right in the center of Mississippi. So I did not have going to medical school as an option, at my exposure. But after spending a lot of time with the guidance counselor at the Lee County Vocational Technical Center, I realized that I had what it took to be successful as a nurse. And that came about because of a little assessment that she gave me. And it kind of went through what my interests are, where I saw myself within the next 5 to 10 years, what my grades were at that time, what were my thoughts around the science, for example. And it either said I would be successful as a nurse or a teacher. So I decided to pursue nursing. I enrolled in pre-nursing at the local community college. Took me about 2 years to finish all of my prerequisites for pre-nursing. And at that time, I decided that I would apply for the associate degree nursing program there in Mississippi at Meridian Community College, which is on the eastern side of the state, right close to the Alabama state line. So nursing has always been my major that I pursued. Thankfully, I was successful in nursing. But I had always said that if I did not make it in nursing school, I would pursue teaching English as a profession. So some 24 years later, at the age of 47, I'm not a teacher. I've been a nurse since that time. Struggled a little bit in nursing school. Actually, it was a 2-year program. So I graduated high school in 95. So between 1995 and 98, I was, just kind of wandering along, working, taking my prerequisites, and I was able to be, past a lot of barriers, I thought, in having to take nursing courses, in addition to courses like chemistry and so forth. So I had all of those out of the way, which helped to increase my likelihood of being successful in nursing school. But I did fail my very first semester there at Meridian Community College. But thankfully, I had 2 individuals there who were very key and crucial to my success there. And that being Dr. Ivana Lyons and Mrs. Sandra Cross. who were two minority faculty members there at Meridian Community College. And my experience there was being the only African-American male out of 60-something students there that were in our cohort. And I was number 3 of only 3 males in my associate in nursing program cohort.
My God, wow. And, it's so interesting, just, what you said about, well, I love how you had the assessment, which kind of guided, your thought pattern of where you were going to go. And here it is all these years later that you did wind up pursuing just that. But the other thing that I love is, the accessibility of community colleges and being able to get that education and still be able to pursue a career in nursing as it stood then and as it stands now, that's still a great way to be able to become a nurse. And then the interesting thing too is that with, and all of you all who get to see the full show notes with his biography, hearing that this is someone here that actually failed their first semester of nursing school, but the amount of accolades and leadership and advocacy and so many things that you have gone through just in your career is just really astounding.
Thank you. And it has certainly been a journey. For me, it is worth it. And actually, I use me failing, as a method of helping to mentor others, to show them that, if I can make it, you can. And, through perseverance, and I always use a little tagline of how I went from being an associate degree nurse to my current role here in Eastern North Carolina as associate dean at the large still here in North Carolina. So not only motivating myself, but also to inspire and motivate others, which I think is very important in this work that we do.
Yes, absolutely. We have to inspire the next generation. We need more nurses, and representation matters. And so I'm so glad that you are just influencing and helping to just give back to the next generation as well. I wanted to actually find out from you. I know you said that you had someone to give you an assessment test, and your grandmother wanted, just trying to figure out what you were doing along the way while you were taking your prerequisites. Was there any point in time in your career that you were steered away from a career in nursing? And then in your time, especially mentioning that you were only one of 3 males in your program and the only Black male nursing student, did you ever get mistaken identity type of situations happen where they thought maybe you were a nursing assistant or housekeeping or something of that nature?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'll start by saying I was a first generation student. So I come from a family of 9 on my mom's side. So my mom had 8 siblings. My dad had 9 siblings. So for me, and especially on my mom's side of the family, I was a first generation student. So I was the very first out of the 29 grandchildren that my grandmother had on my mom's side to graduate from college. And I often talk to my students and others, especially faculty and staff, about some of the struggles that first generation students face. So I had no other option but to work. So I actually worked all through nursing school. I was able to kind of pull back a little bit after, after I actually admitted to the post-degree nursing program. But I think just the mere fact of myself having to work, I think that was kind of one of the barriers that I had to overcome because I had no other choice. I had to. And I think there were times, not so much that I was steered away from nursing, but there were times where I actually questioned myself, say, hey, is it really worth it? I don't have the option to not work because I had to have transportation to and from school, growing up in rural Mississippi. So the community college, the closest community college was 40 miles away. And it would have been difficult to hitch a ride. Then there was no bus to and from. And staying on campus was really not an option for me. But I think I probably discouraged myself more so than not. But thankfully, I'm here today, some 24 years later, having graduated with that associate degree in nursing, and now I sit with the PhD, which I've had for approximately 4 years now, which that was a journey and a struggle within itself.
All right, so that was episode number 3. I hope you all got all the audio from that, but if not, go back and listen to the replay or watch the replay. So again, that was episode number 3 that you all were listening to and watching. And make sure to check out Dr. Michael Jones, Empowering Change, Building a Network of Black Male Nurse Leaders, which I forgot to mention in my quick introduction of him, that he's also one of the phenomenal co-founders and leaders of the Black Male Nurse Leaders. And so now I actually want to take a moment to go to a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back.
Attention business owners, are you ready to tap into the fast-growing market of the nursing community? Partner with us to showcase your products or services to this dedicated audience. Nursing programs, especially at HBCUs, educational programs like CNA, phlebotomy, and CPR, healthcare staffing agencies, and businesses focused on self-care and mental health support. If you're a business focused on providing solutions for the nursing inspired, our platform provides a unique opportunity to especially connect with future nurses eager to invest in their education and career. You could be next for a sponsorship advertising opportunity on the Listen Up Future Nurse podcast. Contact us at info@nursinginspired.com to learn more about advertising opportunities today.
All right, so now I want to get to episode number 4. So that was with Mr. Eric Taylor. That is episode 4, From Critical Care to Men's Health, a Nurse Practitioner's Journey. So Eric Taylor is a nurse and nurse practitioner that is in Houston, Texas. And I think I was originally from, he's in Houston, Texas, but I think he was from another state. But you all can check out his full episode to find out more. But he's a registered nurse. He is a certified family nurse practitioner. He is a nurse practitioner faculty, a clinical instructor. He's also a loving husband, a proud father, a lifetime member of the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And where you may mostly know him from is being the founder of Pryority Male LLC. And into his episode.
A small town in Alabama, central Alabama, actually right about 10 miles from the Edmonds-Pettus Bridge, Selma, Alabama, if you all are familiar with Bloody Sunday. I grew up in a small town called Tarkville. And in that town, I was a pretty decent athlete on the local football team and pretty decent in the classroom as well. I was a smart athlete, so to speak, if you want to put it like that. But I wasn't the fastest guy, I wasn't the strongest guy, but I was pretty good. I had a concussion my senior year in high school. And during my recovery or my assessment in the hospital, I had the opportunity to be entertained or taken care of by a nurse practitioner. And I loved what she did. And it was her bedside demeanor, how she explained things. And it was like I was intrigued. So also my dad's brother my uncle is a nurse in the military, and he's actually a nurse practitioner as well. So I kind of knew what nursing was about, but I didn't have a lot of family members that were nurses. And again, oddly, you think about nursing as mainly female. My uncle is a nurse, a great nurse practitioner. So long story short, I can remember after my concussion going back to my high school counselor and telling her that I wanted to be a nurse. I thought I wanted to be a nurse because I like people. I rarely meet a stranger. I can talk to just about anyone, and I like helping people. So I figured nursing would be a good fit, and I'd always have a job, for the rest of my natural life. Mm-hmm. And so I can remember going to the guidance counselor office, and she looked up at me and was like, "Son, you're gonna be playing football somewhere. Get out of my office." She didn't take me serious because, again, I was a jokester. I was I was in the in crowd in school and made everybody laugh. But I was also, I was a smart kid. So I was very persistent. So I kept pushing. Ms. Stevenson, how do I become a nurse? What do I need to do? So I did my research, went to the library, and see, I'm back in the old days with card catalog and all of that. See, these kids, they don't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
But I did the research. I figured out what I needed to do. But what's interesting is I'm the first generation college graduate. So my mom and dad were great providers. I love them to death. They gave me everything that I needed, and I appreciate them because they are the reason I am who I am today. But they couldn't really help me with the college journey because they didn't have that opportunity. So for me, right out of high school at 17, I enrolled in the LPN program back in Alabama, Trenholm State Technical College. And because I needed to make sure that I could do this, because I'm going to tell you this, they didn't expect me to be a nurse simply because of who I am and how I look, the image. They didn't expect to see a black male go into nursing. Typically, me as a black male, I was always seen as the orderly, housekeeping, patient escort. I was never the nurse, even in training with the big badge and name, all that stuff we had to wear for the school. They still thought that, I was not the nurse. But starting in that LVN program helped me kind of, scratch the surface of where I could go with nursing. I learned about the many different roles, and I had some great instructors at Trenholm State Technical College. And long story short, after I finished that LPN program at 18, I'm about to turn 19. I was one of the youngest in the class. There was only 5 men in the class. Only 4 of us made it. Finished, graduated, got my license, got my first job, and I immediately applied to the local Troy State University. It's Troy University now, but back then, it was Troy State University ADN program. Started there. I completed the program. I actually met my wife in that program. So that was one of the success stories of being in nursing school. Now, again, like I said, I'm a jokester. I like to laugh a lot. So me, when I went to college, I'm like, nursing school is a no-brainer. That's where all the women are. So it's a buffet over there, so I get to pick up the letter. So I finished school, met her. We got married at the end of my program. And then I went back to Auburn University, got my bachelor's. And then I worked for about 10 years in the intensive care unit. This is where I identified a problem. In intensive care, I saw a lot of men, black and brown, that looked like me. They were around my age. And I had so many uncomfortable conversations at the bedside with family members, with these men that were dying prematurely from things that we could have done something about. Heart failure at an early age, kidney disease at an early age, heart attacks, and things that could have easily have been addressed. And I started asking myself the question, what is going on in my community? Why are we dying? I mean, we know the issues in our community. We all know that. We don't need to rehash that on this podcast. That's for another time. But when it came to health, black men in particular did not go to the doctor. We did not trust the doctor. We already know about those social determinants and all that stuff that, we've experienced in this country. And I wanted to figure out how I could maybe be a catalyst to something different when it comes to us understanding our health and being able to advocate for what we needed. So I figured then, I said, I want to become a nurse practitioner because I think I can help a lot more people in that role.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I talk to people easily. I have a pretty good sense of humor, and the family members always was coming. Where's Eric? Where's Eric? You want to talk? And then I got encouraged to come out to do a few talks at local churches. This was before I became an NP, and this was my purpose. And I've been doing that ever since. I've been working as a nurse practitioner. I've been on social media here. I've taken a break here for a while, but I've been doing education on, common health problems that men face. And I've been sharing that information abroad, on the social media platforms. And And that's why I'm here. That's my purpose, is to help leaders who are better than I found it by educating our people and empowering them with the knowledge they need so they can better care for themselves and know what they need to do when it comes to their health.
Wow. All right. So there you have it. That was just episode 4. And that was with Mr. Nurse Eric Taylor, aka Priority Male, from critical care to men's health, a nurse practitioner's journey. And so next, I want to go on over to episode number 5. And so episode 5 is with Deja Cobb. She's also known as the Army RN. She is from Louisiana, but she currently lives in Dallas, Texas. And what I look forward to hear for you all to hear from her is her journey in the Army life and also being a nurse. So for some people go into nursing first and then they go into the Army. Some people go into the Army first, then nursing. So I just want you all to hear it from her perspective and see how she helps others to kind of navigate that journey.
So I can say the biggest thing I had to learn was time management skills. There was literally no way I could have done this without managing my time properly. And it originally started back when I was in nursing school. Because nursing school was 5 semesters long. Then with me being in the military, I had to go to drill 1 week in a month. So I had to literally plan my studies around being in the military, going to school, working, and my drill sessions. So sometimes, like, my drill sessions was always Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes we had to come in early on Fridays. But typically our test days was on Monday mornings. So there were a few times where I would go to drill Saturday, Sunday and have a test Monday morning. Woo. Where my other classmates could cram in a weekend of studying, I couldn't do that. I didn't have that luxury. So it forced me to manage my time. And at that time, I was big on planners. So I would literally have to write down, okay, I got class this day, I got drill this weekend, I got work this day. And I would literally put down on my calendar, I'm going to study cardio today. I'm going to do drill today. And even if it was only for 15, 30 minutes a day, that's what I did. Like, I literally studied every single day while I was in nursing school. And just that little bit, those increments added up.
Wow.
The thing that I learned was time management.
My God. Yeah, because, just reading, over your bio and everything, you started off there first and then became a nurse. And so you had to kind of adjust, while being a student and everything. And so, yeah, that time management piece is huge. I mean, just in general, I think just being a nurse in general, but also someone in the military, you have to be timely.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
One thing you learn, if you're on time, you're late. You're on time, you're late. I learned that early on in the military. Time 07, be there at 6:45. I learned that early. I've gotten smoked, as they would say in the military, for being on time. But that just means, like, if I was late, I might have to do push-ups, burpees, stuff like that.
Lord have mercy. So for y'all that's looking to go that route, if you're already in the military, you already know what's going on there. But of course, if you maybe are in nursing school, or maybe you are a nurse and you're maybe looking to go into the military, just know you heard the word. You already know what's going on, what may happen. So you just better be in shape. I'll just tell you that.
You're gonna get in shape.
Yeah. And then, so you talked about the time management for, like, while you were in nursing school, and then how would you say now working, how is that with working now as well as being in the military?
Well, I can say now it's a lot more flexible, because my civilian job, I work as a float pool nurse now, so it's not as demanding. But the beautiful thing is that even with my drill, I know when I have drill months in advance. So they usually put out our weekly drill dates months in, like almost a year in advance. So I already know those dates. But if I have something going on, I can always do what we call a split drill, which essentially means that I fill out a form, say, hey, I won't make it to drill this weekend, but I'll just come in and I'll make it these days. So I've never really had an issue with that. And then on the civilian side, because I'm military, my job can't refuse me to do anything military related. So you can't, like, I work night shift. So you can't schedule me the night before I have to go to drill. Like, you can't do that.
Okay.
So either way it goes on the civilian side or on the military side, I plan it out in advance.
Okay.
So as long as I'm communicating with my leadership in the military, I have no issues. And then the same thing when it comes to my civilian job, I just show them my orders.
Okay.
So honestly, it is more. While I was doing travel nursing, same thing. When I would talk to my recruiters, I'll let them know, like, hey, I need these times off. I would request a certain times off for my drill weekends, and I never had problems with my recruiters getting different assignments either. But at the same time, it's military, so kind of have to give it to me because, you know.
Respect. Bottom line, respect. Wow. Okay. I'm really glad that you were able to share this with listeners and kind of better get an idea of, you know, how possible this is, you know, not only with the possibility, but being organized. You know, I think there's a large part of that too. You know, you have to be organized in anything you do, and I think planning is key. So if, you know, for anybody that is a future nurse, you know, you got to be organized, especially for nursing school in general, but even more so just going out into the work field. But if you are going to combine being in the military and being a nurse, you definitely need to be organized, which is what I always talk about, which I'm glad that we brought that up, is because everything I talk about with what I do is for students to be prepared, organized, and inspired, for sure. So I love that piece about that time management. And then, so I wanted to know more about your experience as a registered nurse and how that approached your, influenced your approach towards being in the military and vice versa.
So honestly, the reason why I wanted to be a nurse had nothing to do with the military at all. So my little sister growing up had asthma. She had asthma really, really bad. So we're from Louisiana, a lot of agriculture, pollen. We got sugar canes in the backyard. So every single year around the change of season, like when it turns fall, like September is her birthday. And almost every year when she was young, she was hospitalized. Even to the point where she was home, like she even got homeschooled. That's just how bad her asthma was. So that's how I got introduced to the medical field, because of my sister. I was in the hospital with her a lot. And then every time, because she's only 2 years younger than me. And so we went to the same elementaries in high school. And she was always best friends with the nurse because she had to take her asthma machine with her to take her breathing treatment. So that's how I got introduced to the medical field. Now, as far as the military side is, the military, I was just trying to get my tuition paid for. If I'm being completely honest, I was trying to get my tuition paid for it. That's it. My 2 older brothers at the time had just joined the National Guard, and they came back. I was a senior in high school at this point, and they were like, yeah, Deja, because they'll pay for college, and you only got to go to drill 1 week in a month and 2 weeks out the summer. I'm coming from a single parent household. Mama got 4 kids. 2 older brothers, me and a little sister. So I already knew, like, need to achieve what I needed to. I needed that supplement of income and support. So for me, the military was my way out.
So y'all just heard it from Deja Cobb, Nurse Deja Cobb, aka the Army RN. And so check that out, episode number 5, Balancing Nursing School and Military Life, Insights from the Army RN. All right. So our next episode was episode number 6, Simply Faith, Inspiring Confidence, Perseverance, and Resilience in Nursing. This was with Dr. Samantha Faith Calhoun, who is a nurse, a clinical assistant professor at the College of Nursing and at the University of Memphis, where she was born and raised, Memphis, Tennessee. She is a wife. She is the first to graduate from college in her family, the first nurse, and the first to have a PhD in her family. So Dr. Samantha Faith Calhoun is a PhD prepared nurse. So let's take a listen to her journey.
So I watched my mom growing up. My mom and dad, they worked very hard. My mom was in the medical field as a nursing assistant. So I watched her work multiple jobs as a caretaker, and just her compassion that she had about the patients, but also the nurses that she worked with. She had a deep admiration for the nurses that she would express, who took care of her and really instilled in her a vision to keep going. And I just remember my mom coming home and just telling us those stories about the nurses who encouraged her to want more. And that seed is sprinkled off to me. My mom, she didn't directly tell me you need to go to nursing school. I just watched her compassion, and I wanted a little bit. I wanted that excitement and that compassion and that joy. I knew that she instilled in me a love and a passion for education. I knew that I was going to go to college. But at a young age, I would say as early as around 7 or 8, I knew that it was going to be nursing. So I wasn't one of those students that had to figure it out. I knew at that age that I wanted to go to school to become a nurse. But that journey from the idea of pursuing nursing, going through that process was rocky. I'll be honest. I was a student who I made good grades in school. I was gifted academically, so that wasn't a challenge, for me. But it was when I went to study for the nurse entrance exam.
Okay.
I failed that test 3 times. That was one of my first experiences with, this not going to be as easy as I thought it would be. And so my journey into nursing school was had so many challenges. But I just remember that first test where I felt like God was saying, hey, I'm going to have to show you that you're going to have to lean on me. You're not going to be able to depend on your grades. You're not going to be able to depend on your own strength, basically. So that first entry into nursing was met with my first challenge. And I remember praying so vividly. I said, Lord, okay, I can't do this without you. I need you to show me what to do. As I was studying for my nurse entrance exam, and just, going through that rejection the first time, the second time, and the third time. And I actually applied to nursing school and was rejected the first time. They told me, you've taken all of your prereqs, you've done well in your sciences, but because you have not passed this entrance exam, which was the last requirement I still needed to meet, unfortunately, we can't accept you this term. Go take the test again and then reapply. Wow. So that was the first challenge that I said, okay, I see that I'm going to have to switch up my strategy, because the grades aren't going to be the only thing that is going to help me in this program. So long story short, we see that I made it into nursing school. And I'm pretty sure we'll talk more about the challenges that I faced while in school, but just that first encounter with rejection shaped the rest of my academic journey. When I tell you, if I did not have that moment, because God is so faithful, he gave me the confidence that I could do it. You know what I mean? allowing me to do well in school and, not really having to worry about trying to get a GPA up or anything like that. I didn't have that challenge. It was the challenge that I had to face of not depending solely on myself.
Wow. My God. That's so powerful. You just, just brought out so many things in what you said. And I think, and the whole thing, for some reason, I don't know why, but the entire time while you were talking and you were telling that part of your story, I kept looking at your middle name, Faith. I said, yeah, that's some faith right there. Because of a lot of students, no matter if they, know like yourself when they're at a young age, 6 or 7, or if they find out later that they want to go into nursing, and maybe they are, they've always gotten straight A's and A's and B's and been on the honor roll and summa cum laude and all of this stuff. And then they get to nursing and it's like, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I've always been a good student. I study hard. I know these things, but that goes really into the perseverance that you had. I think I'll say perseverance. I mean, just with knowing from that age that you wanted to become a nurse, getting to that point, hit one stop, but didn't give up, tried again, prayed throughout that whole thing. And not only was it the test, but it was also the hit of the nursing program that you applied to too. I mean, that's a whole nother hit in itself. Because it's like, all right, yeah, I know I didn't pass that test, but that's just me to just know that. No, they know it too. And anybody else that you were applying to too. So that's hard, knowing that, but you not only persevered, but you overcame and then some, because now you are Dr. Samantha Faith Calhoun. Come on, somebody.
Listen, that's a whole nother story for a different day. But if whoever, sees this, and I pray, before we, started on today, that Lord, this will reach whoever it's intended to reach. But I just, if anything, I want to normalize the struggle, the challenges, and if nobody is real with you and lets you know that not only is it challenging, because nursing students or people that are interested in nursing, once they find out that I'm a nurse, they'll ask, was it hard? Was nursing school hard? And it's grown to be one of the questions that I'm like, that's the least of your concern, wondering if it's hard or not. It's the internal battles that you're going to have to overcome, especially as a first person in your family to go to college, the first nurse, So I watched my mom growing up.
So there you all have it. It simply takes faith going through this journey of nursing school, becoming a nurse. And so that was episode 6, Simply Faith, with Dr. Samantha Faith Calhoun. And she has Simply Faith Friday, so check her out on Facebook for that. But that was Simply Faith, inspiring confidence, perseverance, and resilience in nursing. And so now I actually want to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back to look at the last few episodes of the season.
Do you remember that day you were sitting in high school and one of your instructors started talking about, it's time to start preparing your mind for college, thinking about where you want to go, setting goals for the test scores that you'll need to apply, the grades that you need to get while you're here, going on college tours, and making sure you apply for scholarships. That time it may have been new to you, but after a while, this is something you've heard time and time again. Not only from your guidance counselor, but probably every teacher you've had along the way. You already know. This is what they do when they talk about college prep. But did they teach you about the career that you wanted to pursue? Something more specific. something to get your career plans set more in motion. You don't see yourself sitting in that classroom anymore. When you were sitting there daydreaming, you know what you were thinking about? You were thinking about yourself sitting at the nurse's station at your local hospital. Saving lives using the art and science of what nurses do.
Go ahead and schedule your one-on-one discovery call today.
All right, so we are back here, back from the commercial break. So we've so far listened to a little bit of episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now I want to share with you all episode number 7. So that actually included myself, that particular episode. So that was back to school. Choosing a nursing program amid closures and challenges. So me, I'm Fallon Flowers. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, South Side, born and raised. I'm a nurse. I'm a nurse practitioner and entrepreneur, CEO and founder of Nursing Inspired LLC, also known as the Black Free Nursing Coach, preceptor, journal peer reviewer, podcaster, and whatever else God has blessed me with. I'm your girl. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share this one now with you. ROI is really important when it comes to, what you're deciding on. So looking at how much the school is going to cost. But again, I really want to stress your nursing school selection strategy. Please don't just pick 1 or 2 schools and pick the school because that's where you took your prereqs or because your sister, cousin, friend went there. Somebody in a Facebook group that you know said that's a good school and all of that. You have to look at the black and white and the gray. So I do want to get into that. But before I get into that, I just want to say with your nursing school selection strategy, make sure that you have a variety of schools that you're eligible for. So that's LPN all the way to BSN for most people, or even ABSN. And then the number. On average, I recommend for my students, when I'm coaching them, and just on all different platforms that I've talked about it in the past over the years, on average, I'll say if you can apply to about 7 nursing programs. That way, that can give you the better guarantee of getting into a program within that coming year. And really, if you can, make sure that you're applying a year in advance. So that way you have time as you are applying. If one, responds back and said you didn't get in and they actually let you know the reason why, maybe it was because of a pass rate for the ATITs or because of the HESI scores or your recommendation or whatever that thing is, you got time to work on that and fix that. But if you're applying in the spring and you're trying to get in the fall, there's no turnaround time. There's no extra classes you can take in time necessarily to boost your GPA or all the things that you can do to kind of do things better for yourself. So now, I want to get ready, because we need to roll out and end this thing. So we talked about the NCLEX accreditation and approval and stuff, and then looking at graduation rates, retention rates, how much the school costs, having a good variety of programs that you're applying to, and the number of schools that you're applying to. But besides that, so that's all the black and white, I'll say most of, because you can see this in a information session. You can, go to the website and you can go to your State Board of Nursing website, the ASIN website, CCNE website. But of course, you want to do, besides the black and white, you want to look at the gray area stuff. So you want to do things like, talking to current students that are in that program. So if they have a pre-nursing club or a HOSA, or if they have a program that is for pre-nursing students, for instance, association chapter, visit if you can, talk to them, see what's going on at that program. Talk to alumni. You can do that through, friends and family. You can do that through, folks that you work with. You can do that through LinkedIn, which is definitely a good thing to do for your professional development in any way as you are preparing to apply to, get into this profession. But besides that, other things are looking at news reports and things, kind of like looking at the news tab of Google, if you will, to kind of see what they've been, what they've had going on, not only in the news externally, but maybe on the school's website as well. What are their bragging rights? What do they have going on? So those are some other ways that you can kind of find out about the school's history and all of those type of things. But it really, really is important, because the last thing we want to do is take all of this time and research to do all these prerequisites and, switch jobs and change up jobs, move across the country, quit relationships. Some people quit their relationships to go to nursing schools. I'm telling you, it's a whole thing. To go through all of this, to get into a nursing program, and it's either about to start or you're in it and it closes down. So we definitely don't want to take our time, our money, our financial aid, all the things, and we didn't do our due diligence and we didn't know better. So I always like to make sure that folks, that you have heard it from me, you have heard it from the Black pre-nursing coach, Fallon Flowers at Nursing Inspired. Not all the things, but some of the major things that you can consider when you're looking at not only college selection, but nursing school or nursing program selection as well. So this has been an awesome time. I'm so thankful for all of you that are here, who are just tuning in, who have been here the whole time. And so I want to end. And so thank you all so much. You can catch the replay if you didn't hear all of this or see all of this on YouTube. And then for my listeners through Spreaker, the Nursing Inspire website, Audible, and iHeartRadio, and all the places that you're listening, give me a little bit to download this live episode so that I can put it on there for you all to listen for the podcast. And then anybody who is a student, I want to say that if you are listening to this, you can actually text the word nurse, NURSE, to 773-609-0649 for a discount for any coaching that I do, any courses that I have, and then also any downloadable worksheets. I really want to actually talk about the downloadable worksheet that I have that actually tracks where you look at all the different nursing programs that you're applying to, and not only some of the things we talked about in today's episode, but some other things you may or may not have thought of as well when it comes to selecting a nursing program, because I always like to make sure that I work with students and you are prepared, organized, and inspired. So there's that worksheet that you can use to help you out to be organized and prepared really for your journey as you're applying to nursing programs. I also have a worksheet on my school where you can keep track of all of the scholarships that you're going to need to apply to, because some of these schools are expensive, and finances is a big part, because the last thing you want to do is get into a nursing program and you can't afford the rest of the way. I've seen students have to sit out a semester, sit out a year, and they can't graduate with their cohort because they couldn't afford the rest of the way. So you want to track your scholarships. And then I also have a worksheet that you can download on my online school that tracks the prerequisites that you're taking as well. And you can keep track of the grades and the different things that, are related to that. And so I have those on my website. All right. So you got to hear a little bit. And so I did want to make mention from that episode. I know I dropped a lot of acronyms and things there in that, but I actually spelled everything out in that episode, what each of those things meant and everything. So you can have some more clarity and take notes and get your notebook ready. Okay. All right. So that was me. That was episode number 7. That was back to school episode, choosing a nursing program amid closures and challenges. Okay, so a little bit more on that tip is the next episode, and that is episode number 8, Back to NP School, which stands for Nurse Practitioner. So back to NP School, how NP Student Magazine supports future NPs. And so this episode was with Dr. Patrice Little. She is an entrepreneur and nurse practitioner. She has her doctorate in nursing practice, or DNP. She is the CEO of NP Student, and she has an entire enterprise that includes NP Student Magazine, as well as the NP Student Boot Camp. She also is a wife. She's a mom. She's a part of the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists, and she is big on political strategy, healthcare advocacy, and if I didn't mention, she's in Atlanta, Georgia. So let's take a listen to Dr. Patrice Little in episode 8.
Was that I wanted to select a school that went along with my lifestyle. And quite frankly, that's really what it's about for this generation. We're a lot different from how our predecessors were, from the nurses that have been around for quite some time. What happened is that I was married and we had one child at the time, and I was in like late 20s, I want to say like 29. And I was saying, okay, I'm ready to become an NP. I just need to know where I need to go. And so, and I mentioned that in the book, The Starter Guide to Think Like an NP, I started to do my work because I really believe in what Stephen Covey says. You start with the end in mind. And the end in mind for me was I envisioned myself attending a school that was close to home, that still had the provisions where I can work full time and still be a devoted wife and a mother. So I had already narrowed down the type of school that will be ideal for me. But when you do that, you also have to make sure that those type of schools will still give you the foundation and have everything aligned. So when you start the program, you're not on your own, in a sense where, and what I'm alluding to is like preceptorship, where you're like, okay, everything else aligns with my personal life. And then you start the program and then it's sink or swim when it comes to preceptorship. So just in short, that's the route that I took. And I went to interest meetings or informational sessions. It just all depends on what the schools call them. And some call them open house. I went to the one at Georgia Baptist College of Nursing, where I end up receiving my DNP degree, but I went there first to explore the MSN program. Then I went to Grinnell University. So they were both in proximity for me, where I was going to have the convenience and as well as quality education. And that's how I went about my selection, even though in the book I highlight the importance, like now looking back in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Talk about just making sure the values, your core values align, that their mission statement there's some type of connection with your personal mission statement. And I didn't do it to all that extent, but I did, when I went to the informational session, it did help me see myself there. Like, could I see myself there? And that's usually what I encourage those who are interested, that it's not just, let me apply to any NP school and cast out this wide net. It's really to take the time to do some research about the school and how it will fit your lifestyle. And that's why our slogan with NP Student Magazine says, it's more than a license, it's a lifestyle. And our content is guided by the 7 NP Student Life Framework. So or 7 aspects, of NP Student Life Framework. It guides all of our content because that's the direction where things are going. And that's how we combat burnout. And of course, I'm saying recidivism, but in this sense, where keeping people staying at the school, at employment, retention, and so forth. So that's how we address it.
Wow. You just dropped so many different pearls there, and then also kind of gave us a little sneak peek into what you have going on with the NP Magazine. You said something about cast the net, and that I just kind of wanted to kind of go back on a little bit. You were saying how you don't cast a net, right, for nurse practitioner school. And you kind of talked about in your journey how you kind of went to a few information sessions for a couple of schools and kind of made your decision, and I think about for what I do here with Nursing Inspired, and helping future nurses, where they actually do cast a wide net, because for nursing school and your and your selection strategy, it's different, because there's so many varieties of ways that you can become a nurse, for one, but you also, because of the competitiveness, you need to have a nice number of schools to select from. But here you selected from and kind of visited 2 schools that you mentioned. But the biggest difference, if you could kind of highlight a little bit, is when we're looking at nursing school, we're looking at schools to become a nurse. But when we're looking at nurse practitioner school, we kind of have to know what we want to do as far as becoming a nurse practitioner. Like, what type? Is that a part of some of your top 7 that you mentioned, as far as knowing the specialty that you want to go into? Like for me, as a WHNP, for instance, or someone who's a family nurse practitioner, et cetera.
To clarify, when you say the 7 aspect of NP student life?
Yes, because I knew it was something 7 that you had in your with your program and everything.
Okay, so the 7 aspect of NP student, there is 7 aspect in life. So you have your social, you have the mindset, you have NP school, which is personal development, you have spirituality, you have love and relationships, you have financial wellness, and you have health and wellness. So that's where we talk about where our content is holistic, so we can meet all the needs. But when it goes to having a list that you follow to be intentional when it comes to select a nurse practitioner program, we do outline that in the starter guide to think like an NP. And a matter of fact, the end of every chapter, there is a checklist. There's actionable steps for you to do everything. So we do things, as we mention, things as looking at the mission statement, looking at the cost, looking at accreditation and where they are in accreditation, looking at as far as job placement, some of the things you have to call afterwards. Like, for instance, if you are interested in a particular school and there are 30 nurse practitioners that graduate every semester. Of those 30 nurse practitioners, how many pass boards on the first try? Then after that, how many of them land jobs within 6 months to a year? Really want to know as far as what things do they have in place to support that journey of transition post-graduation. In the sense that, like that last semester of NP school, there should be things in place such as NP board exam prep, as well as someone talking to them about jobs. Like Brunel did a great job having guest speakers talking to us about locum-tenens and other job opportunities, because in some areas across the nation, sometimes the positions are saturated. I reside in Metro Atlanta. So if you're an FNP, it may not be as easy to land a job versus being in South Georgia for an FNP, because there's so many people in the metro area. Now, if you're going to acute care, women's health, pediatric, you start going to those specialties, it may be a little bit easier to land a job. So I say that I don't want to digress too much, but these are the things you have to take your time and be intentional. And we talk about that. When you start with the end in mind, where is it that you want to be post-graduation? Do you want to be 1 year out and still haven't landed your NP job? Or do you want to have certain things in place? Now, we know in life, mayhem can happen. So you can't really prepare for those things that are unexpected, but what you can, like you do in business, right? You can have that plan and have those SMART goals as far as what you're going after. So when you don't get that, you have that next step of what to do. You have some type of anticipation that's in place. And so that's what we strive to get those who aspire to be NPs to start thinking about. That's why it's called Think Like an NP, because when you get into the role as a nurse practitioner, you have to anticipate things that come along with your patients and their presentation. So we answer quite a bit, and it's awesome. Short read, but it is really packed with just about everything you need to know before you apply to NP school.
All right, so that was episode 8. So of course, as you all saw, she flashed a couple of her book a couple of times. So she's also an author. So that was Dr. Patrice Little, DNP prepared nurse practitioner. That was episode 8. Back to NP School: How NP Student Magazine Supports Future NPs. So after you come get your coaching with me, and we work our way backwards from your goal, from your pre-nursing phase into nursing school. And next after that, you want to go to NP school and become an NP, go see Dr. Patrice Little. Okay. All right. So now on to the last episode I want to share with you all. This has been such an incredible journey. Is episode number 9. And so that is the business of nursing, innovation, mentorship, and self-care to avoid burnout. And so with that episode, we actually had Dr. Lendra James, who is originally from East Orange, New Jersey. And her businesses, businesses actually, she has locations both in New Jersey as well as Pennsylvania. She is a PhD prepared nurse, first generation grad. She was an associate degree nurse starting off. She's also a mom. So all the things. So let's take a listen to Dr. Lendra James in episode number 9.
In East Orange, New Jersey. And we didn't really have, counselors who were really invested in our development or in our career trajectory. And I was an honor student, right? And I was like one of those like honor students. I received like a presidential scholarship. And I actually was kind of coached to go to an LPN program. So there was an LPN program I think it was something like 10 months. It was a 10-month LPN program. Okay. And, so I thought coming out of high school, like, oh, okay, well, I'll be an LPN and then I'll make some money and go back to school. And, but in the 11th hour, I think like a couple of weeks or maybe a month before the program was supposed to start, the program was taken away. The school closed or whatever happened. So a lot of the students ended up getting automatic entry into the county college program. Okay. So I attended the county college program, and I was one of those, like, I kind of bounced around. I wasn't really, I didn't have the best guidance, which is why, like, fast forward to now, like, I look at I'm so big on mentorship. Mm-hmm. Because, I went to the ADM program. I was young, played around. I went to a different school, finally got my degree in nursing. And I was a nurse for about maybe, and then my associate degree in nursing. And during that time, I worked at different doctor's offices, and I started getting experiences that I didn't realize was going to really help me in my future. Right. So I landed a job on a neuro unit. And before it actually became a neuro unit, it was it was like one of those mishmash units, right? We had urology, neurology, remote telemetry. Mm-hmm. It was one of those units, and I was a tech on that unit. And we did everything, and everything was manual. Like there was manual blood pressures, there were manual temperatures, manual pulse checks. Mm-hmm. That's how we learned, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's how we learned. And I actually didn't go back for my BSN probably until. So I became a nurse in like 2001. So it was probably about 10 years later that I went back for my BSN. And from there, because I was, in between, I had a child, I started a family. So, life happens, right? And and then when I did start to go back, it was, by the time I did go back, I was ready to I became what I feel it to be a career student. At that point, because then it was my BSN, then it was the journey to my master's, and it became the journey to my doctorate. And from my doctorate, it became the journey into entrepreneurship. So I feel like I've been a career student throughout my career, throughout raising my family. I've been in school, and but we made it happen, right? And we set examples for our children and for our family that they say, okay, if mom can do it, so can I. And that's the same thing that I tell other nurses who are even now coming into programs. Like I'm the person who and not to say that it's it's not challenging, but I'm the person who, we can't talk about, daycare, right? Or I don't have a babysitter, or I can't study because I have children, or I can't study because you know what? We make time for what we need to make time for. And you have to think about, with anything, the return on your investment. You're doing something and you're making sacrifices now that's going to come back and really affect you and your family in the future. So we make these sacrifices now in the moment so that we can eventually reach goals that we all can be proud of, our family, our children. And that's that. And in some cases, is actually breaking generational curses. So then, when we talk about generations, I come from my brother. He, he receives his PhD before I did, but my family, our generation, like from my brothers and my cousins, my first cousins, we're the first generation in the family to really start to get doctorate degrees and degrees, because our parents, they didn't come from that. So
Wow, that's so amazing. To be the first, with that, and just lean on, what they were able to give us and give us their best, whatever that was, and and then now impress upon that, on future generations about, hey, if I did it, you can do it, But I really do love, though, although you didn't have an experience that led you in some big experience to say, oh, I really got to become a nurse, because of this big event, you were still exposed, which was great. So although you didn't have the career counselor there, in a way, you were coached in a way. And then it's funny how that program was, put in front of you and taken away. You could have and said, okay, I'll look at, this, a pharmacy, or I'll look at this, or I'll look at that. But you decided to still keep going, and you went to the community college, and then you still pursued your education, which I really love. And then you said you were a tech on a mishmash floor. So was this while you were in your associate's degree program, while you were doing that?
It was. So eventually, so it's funny. Like I said, I had, different jobs, like outpatient jobs. I worked in doctor's offices. I did like some home care, and I eventually got a job in a hospital. And that actually, the job in the hospital was probably my last, 6 months of nursing school, but it still helped. And, and I always think back, and I encourage anyone who is in nursing school to get a job in the hospital. Because a lot of times I see students who they're in nursing school, but they're working at Enterprise, right? Or they're working at a movie theater, right? And listen, I understand we have to do what we have to do. However, if you can get that job in that hospital setting, in that long-term care facility, in that nursing home, something that's going to give you exposure, it's probably one of the best things that you can do for your career.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that, because that is something that when I'm coaching students, I help them look at not only what helps them to look more marketable for applying to their nursing programs, but what's going to help to expose them more, and, just be able to give them kind of a fallback of something that they can do while they're in nursing school that really kind of makes sense, because things will start to connect. And as we might say, it hit differently, it's just like those things that you knew you were doing as a tech or as a CNA or as a medical assistant, you look at it differently once you get the rationale from nursing school behind, what you're doing. But if you're just doing, things because that's what they taught you to do, and you're just kind of going down this checklist of things, you get in a rhythm of doing it, but you really don't know why. And then sometimes that makes you want to switch it up a little, or cut this thing out, or do something in a different order. And it's like, no, you can't do that. And there's a rationale behind that.
And you're absolutely right. Knowing the why you're doing things, not just because it's like a check in the box, right? Or not just because professor said so, or not just because you have to really understand it. And I tell students all the time, even when it comes down to taking your exams, when you pass, it's because you understood the information, not because you just studied to pass the test. Like one of the things that grind my gears is well, do we have a study guide? It's well, what's going to be on the exam? Everything. Everything. No, but I say that jokingly, but I have a comprehensive understanding of the information, because when you do that, that's really what helps with retention. If you're just studying, because the test is not going to say, okay, apples and oranges, right? The test is going to ask you about vitamins in particular, right? The test is going to ask you essential questions to make sure to see if you have that comprehensive understanding. It's not just going to be, Jack and Jill, or like that really fundamental way of, thinking.
This ain't no regurgitation. No. You gotta understand.
That's not it. You have to understand the information. So that's not it. I can remember when I was a tech. It was so funny. Like one of my first times on the unit, and I remember this nurse just running up to me and handing me this your this UHCNA kit, UA culture and sensitivity kit. She was like, go get this culture. I guess I was dressed in a uniform and I had to go get this culture. And I remember going in the bathroom just trying to figure out how I'm supposed to put this urine in this tube. And I was like, how is this urine supposed to go in this tube? But you know what? But I hadn't worked in, the hospital setting before. And this is why when I go back to say, if you can get that exposure going into the hospital, go into a facility, that way, when you become a nurse, things are more familiar to you and you're not just going off textbook and theory, because it changes. Yes, definitely.
All right, so that was episode 9, the business of nursing, innovation, mentorship, and self-care to avoid burnout. So you heard it from Dr. Lindra James, not only an entrepreneur, business owner, but also nursing instructor, as you all can hear. So check out that episode. So that was episode number 9. So this is the season 1 recap of Listen Up, Future Nurse podcast. I'm so grateful for all of you that have been listening in throughout this entire episode today and watching. Please make sure to check out the replays on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube to watch. And then if you're wanting to listen, you can listen in on lots of places. So the Nursing Inspire website and Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Alexa devices, Amazon Music, Apple Music, and you can do all of that actually through our virtual remote that I have. So that's a kind of a one-stop shop. So you can tap on that and you can find all the ways in which to listen or watch. The other thing is Nursing Inspired visitors and guests. I don't know if you knew, but this podcast does have a supporters club. And by becoming a supporter for just $7 a month, you can play an active role in helping me to continue to produce the content that you love just by making that one-time donation. Of course, you can also make that, a different donation. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, the rest to support everything that I'm doing just in general with Nursing Inspire. So I do speaking events, I do vendoring events, and I have giveaways that I get to use high school students, college students when I'm out exhibiting, vendoring, and speaking and things. And so you can actually donate through the links in the virtual remote there too as well. And then one last announcement that I'll make is any students, if you are interested in working with me through coaching, through the courses that I have, through downloadables that I have on my online school, you can get a 10% discount by mentioning the word podcast in your discovery call or by sending a text. You'll send a text to 773-609-0649 and you'll text the word nurse. Podcast, sorry. You'll text the word podcast to me, and then I'll know that is associated with you, so you can get your 10% discount. So I want to thank all of you all for listening again and watching, and we will see you the next time. All right, it's a wrap. Make sure to watch us live
Listen to your favorite podcast locations, leave us a review, or if you'd like to reach out to support this podcast, reach out to me as a speaker, or sign up for coaching, please use your virtual remote. You can give us a review on your favorite place to listen or watch this podcast, such as Google, Yelp, or Trustpilot, and you can reach those from the virtual remote as well by scanning the QR code on the screen or by visiting bit.ly/FutureNursePodcast. Love what we're doing and want to create live streams like this? You can access the sign-up referral link in the show notes for StreamYard. If you'd like to be organized like the virtual remote, consider making one for your next event or as a link in bio with Societap. Please support this Black female-owned company and get yours today.